Hello, hello, and welcome to Saturday Soundbites. I'm your host, Veronica V. Sofer. I have the pleasure of introducing you to some amazing guests here on Saturday Soundbites, and we talk about all things that are going to help you grow your brand, grow your visibility, show up the way you want to show up intentionally, and get that mindset right. So whether it's public relations, marketing, advertising, branding, networking, those are all the things that we know that will help grow our business and grow our brand. So we like to talk about those things, and I have a great guest for you. We're going to bring her on in just a second. But before we do, let's take care of some housekeeping. If you are listening on the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss any episodes of Saturday Soundbites. And if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, drop us some comments, and my guest and I will be sure to connect. So let's go ahead and get this episode started. I have the amazing Kelly Harris joining us. Welcome to Saturday Soundbites.
Hey there. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, so glad you are here. I know we're going to be talking about confidence and how we show up for folks and really some of those messy actions that we have to take to get there. And you are certainly an expert in that space. But before we dive into that content, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be where you are.
So I am Kelly Harris. I am the CEO of Harris Virtual Solutions, which we're rebranding to Kelly Harris Creative because it's more in line with what we want and where we want to go. And so actually, I am a former kindergarten teacher. That's what I did for a long time.
Awesome.
And I ended up in this space partially because of the pandemic and partially because I always knew that I needed to create more impact. 25 kids at a time was great, but if I could reach 100 people, that was better. And so like I said, I was a kindergarten teacher. I went from working 65 hours a week during the pandemic to about 85. And after, months of that, my husband came to me and said, this is changing what it looks like. We said 10 years. This is year 8, should count as 3. Let's figure out what happens at the end of the year. And it's time to move on. And that was October of 2020. And so in May of 2021, I was like, okay, Lord, help. And I started as a virtual assistant, or an executive assistant is what some people call them. And doing that, I actually was doing some things for my kids in Scouts and took a leadership training in Boy Scouts and realized during that thing that I was really good at words. And my husband likes to say I'm a master BSer because he will freak out. He can't think of things. I'm like, I think what you're saying is, and he's like, yeah, that's it. How did you do that? And I'm like, well, that's what you said. You just didn't say
it. Yeah.
And so at that time, I pivoted more into copywriting and really got into mindset very deep because I knew that was going to be an issue for me personally. Mm-hmm. And so mindset is one of those things I love to talk about, and messy action I love to talk about. But at the end of the day, I love helping people with their marketing. Mm-hmm. And that primarily is through email marketing, also helping them figure out what does my marketing look like? What are my action steps? Because that's what's going to actually move you forward, is taking that action.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that you brought that experience of being a teacher, because what I can tell you, having also been in the education space, is that teachers are natural listeners. And so when you can listen and then synthesize what is either connecting or what is not connecting, then you can pivot very quickly on the words, the images, the graphics, all of that. And so in reality, you got some seriously good hands-on training in those 8 years that you were in the classroom.
Right. Because that was 8 years as a full-time teacher, but there were 10 years before that I was actually a substitute teacher. So I got to see it all, and I got to see the nasty nitty gritty. And when I finally took my teaching test, they said, well, this should take you 2 hours. And I literally went down the thing and was like, I've done that subbing. I've done that subbing. I've done that subbing. I've done that subbing. And the guy said to me, well, you can't pass this test. You got done too fast. And I said, well, if I'm wrong, hundreds of other teachers are wrong, because I've been doing this long enough that I've seen most of this.
Yeah.
And that was actually the test I passed with the highest grade. And it was because I had unintentionally gained the experience that I needed to be able to use it and move forward.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. And so let's talk a little bit about that messy action, because I think for some people, especially if you're considering going into a new space, or if you're considering launching a business or just have a side business, the whole idea of mapping it out, strategizing it, especially when it comes to branding or messaging, can be really overwhelming. And then those actions seem like they're just so out of reach. How do you even start that process?
Yeah. So I was actually blessed to the last 4 years I taught. I was in a school that was very growth mindset, but I knew that if I was going to move into a space that was, oh, you're going to be an entrepreneur. Oh, guess what? You're the CEO. So if it fails, this is your fault. Um, like all of these things, I knew mindset was going to be an issue. And what was funny is I knew what to say, but I didn't necessarily believe it. And
Ah,
so very early on in my entrepreneur career, I basically had to have kind of a little come to Jesus moment. Like, we have to take messy action. What does that mean? It doesn't have to be perfect, because so many of us women are raised that we need to be the perfect mom, the perfect babysitter, perfect wife, whatever. And so we strive for that, when in reality, perfect doesn't exist. It absolutely 100% is just a fake made up thing. And so we get caught in that, I want to be perfect with this. And we forget that life is about taking action. And so, like for me, messy action means you create the thing, you're going to give yourself a timer, whatever that looks like. Could be a day, could be an hour, whatever it is you're doing. And then you're going to do the thing and you're going to put it out there, with whether that's social media or your website or whatever that looks like. You put it out there and you get feedback on it, because feedback's a gift. Feedback gives you the ability to come and say, cool, this is what people really like. This is what they're telling me they need. This is what they're telling me they don't need. And then you can take that thing back and you can tweak it and make it better. And you can put it back out into the world for more feedback. And there's no number of times that you can only do that. You can do that as many times as you want. And what I have found in the last 2.5 years of being an entrepreneur is that's where the growth occurs. When
yeah.
you are brave enough to put it out there and get the feedback, and then, okay, I'm going to make another iteration of this, and I'm going to put that back out there, and I'm going to make another iteration of this, and I'm going to put it out there. You do that and it becomes better and better and better. And then you start having people ask you things like, well, how did you do that? Like, how did you put it out? It's perfect. It's not
Mhm.
perfect. We're on version 27, like, but you've taken the messy action. And sometimes the hardest part is hitting send,
Yeah.
because you don't know. You don't know if people are going to love it or hate it or whatever that's going to look like. And so you put it out there and you let it go and you let
Mhm.
it be what it needs to be. And taking messy action, it's hard the first couple of times, but it gets easier,
Mhm.
because we as humans are very inept in, like, we are scared to do the thing. The thing feels really hard, whatever that is. Sending an email, going live on Facebook or Instagram, it feels hard. And then you go and you do it and you're like, awesome. The first few times I put things out or did a live, I had a trash can next to me because I thought I was going to throw up. I was like, just in case this doesn't end well, we
Yes.
have a backup
Yeah,
plan.
there's a backup plan.
And what I found was, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Sure.
The more
Sure.
you push yourself just a couple of inches out of your comfort zone, the more comfortable you get, the more that confidence starts to come into play. And then you look at it and you're like, cool, here's where I was. Look at all the things I've gained. And look, where my comfort zone's over there. I'm now, a block away from it,
Mhm.
just by taking those tiny little action steps and celebrating the journey. Because
Mhm.
it's not about the end goal. It's about how we get from point A to point B. And it's about, what version of you are right now.
Right.
I had someone tell me very early on, like, you're only as successful as you're ready to be. So
So
if you're not
true.
ready to be mega million successful, you're not going to be that successful right now. But you can take action steps to figure out, what version 2.0 of Kelly looks like. What does version 5.0 of Kelly look like? And even, you know, the other thing that I used to tell people, find the gap and then you can cross it, which you can. But really, at the end of the day, it's about the gain and how far you've actually come, because that's where the confidence comes into play.
Mhm.
Because it's hard to be confident if you've only ever done it once.
Right.
But if you've done it 10 times, it's like, oh, I've had this conversation before. I've gone live before, even, you could be a speaker at some point, which is something I never thought I would do. And I love being able to have opportunities like this now to go and talk and just to create the impact that needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you think folks, so once they've made the decision and they've gotten over, it doesn't have to be perfect, because I know for some of us, especially in the for creatives, right? Creatives,
Yeah.
we naturally recreate all the time. And so the last version was never quite good enough. How do you get folks to that next level of taking doing it once or twice and then doing it 3 or 4 times, but then being consistent? Because I know consistency is also paramount to showing up confidently and really getting your word, your message out there.
And consistently, there's a couple of things I would definitely say to that. One, it's hard to be consistent. So it has to be an incredibly intentional thing. And the way I discovered how to do this, because this was one of the biggest struggles I had when I first started, was people would say, time block, it's no big deal, or do, whatever, block your stuff, it's fine. And I'm like, that sounds horrible. I don't want to do it. That sounds really bad. And what I discovered was I was very good at procrastinating and waiting and being that person who had analysis paralysis, that I knew what I needed to do, but it sounded really hard and I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And one day I was sitting there, perfect example for one, we're going to add a baby to our house in October. And so I know there's a hard stop for maternity leave in October of this year for a little while.
Yay.
And
Mhm.
I knew that as an email copywriter, I needed to be working on my email list, which hadn't looked at in several months. And I was like, there's like 10 people on it. And basically said, like, no, Kelly, you have to do this. Like, Kelly, we need to have another come to Jesus moment. Like, we have to do this thing. It seems really scary. I don't know how I'm supposed to write out my emails for the rest of the year when I have 3 children currently, and I can't tell you what we're having for dinner tomorrow.
Yeah.
So how am I supposed to know what my plan is in 4 months? I have no idea. And what I did was I started a Google Doc and basically just said, okay, and I did this in July. So in July, what do I want my theme to be? So if I was to write 4 emails, a weekly email, what are my 2 or 3 little ideas that I can revolve everything around? Essentially, what are my marketing buckets is what it
Mhm.
kind of amounted to. And then if I have an offer, what is that offer going to look like? So that I knew every email I write needs to come back to one of these points. And if I'm putting out the offer and doing that on social media, it needs to come back. This is my anchor,
Mhm.
essentially.
Mhm.
And so I did that and was able to do that for the entire month. And then what I did was I went back and I just said, you know what? I want to be as real and honest and raw as I can be. And so I want to take stories of my children and find the business and the life lessons in that and use that to
Brilliant.
share with my email marketing. And
Mhm.
what I will do is once the emails are written, if I can get this done, then I'm going to repurpose that content into my social media content. I was actually able to write 35 emails in 2 days that way.
Wow.
Where it was like once the
Wow.
idea started and once I let go of this has to be perfect, it was done. It was
Yeah.
just like idea after idea after idea. And it was like, cool, what does this look like? And I mean, and I've had to go in and make a few tweaks, but at this point, my email for my email list is scheduled out until the end of December
Mhm. That's
because
fantastic.
it was such a big thing that I felt like was weighing me down, that once I finally let go and said, okay, look, Lord, give me the words I need. I'm going to come up with the stories. I've got themes. I've got my offers. Let's just see what we could do. And it just came. It came beautifully and brilliantly. And then after I did that, I was able to go back and write, like, my social media posts are actually done through the beginning of November.
Yeah. Wow, that's
So
amazing. I love it. I love how you took the steps. I mean, you just did it, and then once you did, it's like flow just kinda went right.
once
Yeah.
you get to that point where you're like, okay, I'm ready to let go and I'm ready to be this authentic version of myself, which I think that is
Yeah.
incredibly important for somebody taking messy action. You cannot look around and see what others are doing and say, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. You have to say, cool, what do I need to do to move forward? How can I be the most authentic person that I can be and show up that way? And once I let go and stopped, like, put the blinders on what others were doing, it was very easy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get caught up in the, like, oh, well, she has an email list. You just started your business. You maybe don't need one yet.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Right. No, you're absolutely right. That makes complete sense. That Kelly, that is such great advice. And I'm so inspired by the fact that you just did it. It's like you jumped and you figured it out on your way down. And then you ended up with 6, 8 months worth of content ready to go. So you're way ahead of the curve. That's fantastic. All right. So tell us a little bit about how people can work with you. Tell us about some of the projects that you're working on as you go get ready for this little break that you're going to take to have a
Right.
baby.
Right. And it's one of those things that was like, this is the first time in a long time it's been like, you have a hard stop
Yeah.
for at least a couple weeks. You have to do this. And it was like, oh, okay. So essentially I tried to reverse engineer it is what I did. Like if I know I have to take this break, I don't necessarily want to be writing emails during that time. So what can I offer that's still going to serve my people? And so a couple of projects that I have coming up. One, August 15th, 16th, and 17th, I'm actually doing an email marketing challenge where it's a free challenge, but in the 3 days, people are going to be able to set up their email marketing. They're going to be able to create their lead magnet, which is how you exchange their email for something of value. And then they're going to be able to set up the first couple of emails in their email marketing to be able to say, here's your freebie. Thanks for being on my list. And so within 3 days, they're going to do what it took me a long time to accomplish.
Yeah.
And then I actually will be with that launching my Black Friday offer as a beta. So it's going to be a really, really good deal. But I wanted to run that in October and September so that when November came, I had the social proof to back it up.
Yeah.
And
I love
so
it.
that's what I'm doing. And I'm also, I've got a couple of spots right now where I will either go in and help people write their email marketing for either a weekly or a monthly email, or they can have the other thing I'm working on for New Year is a marketing VIP day where we'll sit down, look at all of their marketing, create action steps so they have a plan for every month. And then that comes with a social media guide or emails if that's what they're looking for doing. So they could literally work with me for a couple weeks and have their stuff planned out for the rest of the year. So
Oh my gosh, so many opportunities to tap into your expertise and your skills and just your proven method. I mean, I love that you were like, "Yep, I figured it out, so here it is."
yeah.
That's fantastic, Kelly. Where's the best place for folks to connect with you? Where are you most often online?
So I am most often on Facebook or Instagram. Instagram is Kelly Harris Creative. And I believe Facebook is Kelly Harris Marketing. It's a long story, but that's what it is right now. And they can also just reach out via email, Kelly with a Y at kellyharriscreative.com. Just tell me, and I would absolutely love to connect because that's the other thing. At the end of the day, I'm creating impact. I want to network with people. I want to create a referral based business. And so if I can support you in any way, please reach out because I love people and I work from home and only talk to children. So that's what it is.
Yes, I know it does. It does help when there's others, grown-ups that we can talk to. So I so appreciate what it is you're doing. Excellent, Kelly. Thank you so much for being on the show. And just listeners, all of her contact information, all of her links will be in the show notes. So make sure you connect with Kelly, and that's with the Y. I appreciate you saying that because sometimes people do wonder. And we will make sure that all your information is readily available for all of our listeners.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
You bet. All right, that's going to wrap up this episode. So we thank Kelly for being on as always. We love to find guests who are going to be able to inspire you and bring you tips and strategies and resources so that you can grow your visibility. You can find me at veronicavsofer.com. I'm always available there. And if you've got any comments for us, if you're catching the replay, just put hashtag replay and on the comment section in Facebook or YouTube so that Kelly and I can circle back with you. And if you are catching us on your favorite podcast platform, make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss any episodes. So with that, I will wrap up this episode by sending you lots of positive energy and light.